Hindu News Analysis dated August 31, 2023. Getting into the news article discussion. Displayed here are the table of contents. And the news article from Chennai page. Yesterday, the State Minister for Municipal Administration inaugurated a pilot project on the reuse of wastewater with nature-based solution to improve the groundwater recharge. This pilot project has been inaugurated at Little Flower Convent School in Chennai. The project is a part of the efforts of the city of thousands of tanks. So in this news article discussion, we shall understand about the city of thousand tanks and the specification of the new pilot project launched in the Flower Convent School. See, the city of thousand tanks is a plan that was developed by consortium of various organizations led by Netherlands-based ousted architects and urbanists. The aim of the plan is to demonstrate a model that can make Chennai water secure by identifying the interrelationships between the underlying causes of floods, water scarcity, and pollution in Chennai. Currently, the city of thousand tanks intends to develop a water balance models across the city by collecting rainwater, treating wastewater and runoff pollutions with decentralized nature-based solutions and researching them to underground aquifer. This will prevent climate change induced droughts by increasing groundwater resources and prevent saline intrusions from sea level rise. Simultaneously, it will mitigate risk associated with high frequency floods as well as sewage pollution. See, the current urban demand is 1,580 million liters per day MLD. So the project intends to fix supply side issues by creating water retention and supply capacities of 200 to 250 MLD in the first two phases. One such initiative is what we saw in today's news article. The project in the school used advanced through wastewater treatment techniques and constructed wetlands, especially an artificial wetland with canna plants to treat grey water. Apart from this, harvesting rainwater and aerobic treatment methods are also used to treat 27,000 liters of sewage generated daily. The treated wastewater would be released into an aquifer through the infiltration gardens. See, this program is an initiative of Henry Owenk, the special envoy for international water affairs of the Kingdom of Netherlands. The team has also collaborated with other organizations in Chennai as well. For example, CAT Earth Rest will monitor the impact on biodiversity in the garden and check the quality of treated wastewater. City of thousand tanks have also planned to scale up the initiative to other part of the Chennai. The program, besides reducing burden on urban sewage infrastructure and leading flooding, it would also help urban cooling due to increase in population and the depletion of water table. Chennai will run out of water in the next decade. That is why this initiative has been launched. Remember, Canal Lily has a huge potential to remove the carbon, nitrogen and phosphorus from wastewater under subtropical conditions. This recycling technology of wastewater using nature-based dissolution is known as phytoid technology, or in other words, phytoid technology is a self-sustainable technology for wastewater treatment that works on the principle of natural wetland. Hope you learned something new in today's news article discussion. So these learned points, now let us move on to the next news articles discussion. Take a look at this news article. It talks about the recent coup that is happening in an African country called Gabon. After the coup attempt, there is an uncertainty about who is in charge of Gabon. The coup leaders have announced that they have installed a new interim leader. This is the crux of the news article given here in the context. Let us discuss about the coup happening in Gabon and the prelims point of view. First, some of the basic informations. Gabon, look at this map. Keep on the lines of the west coast of Africa and equator forces through it is bordered by Equatorial Guinea and on the northwest, Cameroon to the north, Republic of Congo on the south and Gulf of Guinea to the west. Gabon was previously a French colony. Even today it has stronger economic ties with France. Gabon is rich in oil resources and oil is a main source of country's revenue. Even though it has a plenty of natural resources, 1/3 of its population live in poverty due to exploitation by European powers. So with this basic understanding, now let us discuss about the coup. What is happening in Gabon? Recently, the president of Ali Bongo was disposed by the country's military. His family has ruled Gabon for 56 years, and there is a public resentment for their route. There is also public discontent over border issues like poverty, inflation, influence of France in country's economic policies, and etc. President Bongo has been removed from his office by military leaders in the recent court. As a result, the rebel leaders have received the support of common people. But France and other Western nations have condemned the coup. Interesting things to note here is that this is the 8th group former French colonies in Africa. In the past 3 years, few days earlier, we have discussed a coup happened in Niger, which is a West African country. Before that, political instability happened in Mali, Guinea and Senegal, etc. So we can see that there is an increasing trend of military coup in West Africa, and this latest coup, Gabon, is seen as a part of this trend. As UPSC has tendency of asking the questions about conflict region around the world, we can expect the question based on this groups, recent groups in West African region. That is why we have chosen this news article. So these learned points, let us move on into the next news discussion. Now look at the science page article. This article speaks about managing nuclear waste. Now suddenly this topic is in news because of Japan. Japan has started releasing radioactive water from Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean. I hope you all remember that in 2011 Japan was hit by a massive earthquake. During this earthquake, the Fukushima nuclear power plant was flooded with seawater, and it was heavily damaged the flat water and has mixed up with water, and that was used to cool the nuclear fuel rods. So all the contaminated water have been collected and stored in the tank. This is because there was a chance that the water could contain harmful radiations. Now after several years, the wastewater has highly filtered to reduce the radioactivity, and it was released into ocean, and this has raised some concerns among the people about the disposal or management of spent nuclear fuel. So because of this, only topics regarding managing nuclear waste appeared in news. Today there are some temporary traditional methods followed to manage nuclear waste. Let us understand them in this news article discussion. Now have a better understanding, we have to first note about nuclear energy. The functioning of nuclear reactors. See, nuclear energy is a green energy. It is one of the alternatives to fossil fuels or carbon-based energy. Apparently, 10% of the world's electricity comes from nuclear energy. As we all know, many countries like US, China, India have set a target to achieve a net zero emission. So they are focusing on obtaining a higher share of energy from nuclear power plants. But the problem here is that there is no clear-cut common global policy to deal with the nuclear waste that is obtained from nuclear power plants. Now coming to the functioning of nuclear reactors. See, nuclear reactors are the heart of the nuclear power plant. Nuclear reactor contains nuclear fuel rods, which comprises of numerous pellets of feasible uranium fuel. The nuclear fuel rods act as a fuel to run the new reactor. The nuclear reactor carry out the controlled nuclear chain reactions with the help of a uranium-filled fuel rods. During operation, the reactors produces a extreme heat through a process of nuclear fission reaction. The heat applied through the nuclear reaction is supplied to an adjacent chamber filled with water due to the extreme heat, and the water starts boiling and it produces steam. The obtained steam spins a turbine and it creates electricity with the help of a generator. This is how the nuclear reactor functions. Here the nuclear fuel rods that are used to run the reactor are constantly cooled with the help of a water. If it is not cooled, it will melt down the reactor and the radiation will get released into the environment. This in turn affects the living organisms surrounding the power plant. So the fuel rods should be kept cold to avoid any disaster. See, when the nuclear fuel rods are exhausted of fuel, it it is unloaded and replaced by the new fuel rods. Now the spent nuclear rods are not safer to dispose of in the environment, so they are unloaded and kept into a water filled pool. Immediately it allows the rod to decrease its heat and radiation levels. Note that the rods are held in the water pools for a period ranging from a few years to decades. So now what have happened after cooling of spent fuel? See, after cooling, the spent fuel rods are transferred to the massive air-cooled dry casks for storage. Here, the spent fuel is stored safely in a centralized facility for the rest of the lifetime. Most of the countries follow this disposal process, but in a few countries, the fuel will spent to a reprocessing plant. In a reprocessing plant, the spent fuel is dissolved and some of the elements like plutonium and uranium are recovered in some cases. The recovered elements are recycled to use again in nuclear reactor. Also in some countries, the cooled plant fuel rods are buried in near surface disposal. Facilities at ground level or below these facilities are protected with the cover of at least a few meters thick. Apart from this, nuclear waste is also placed in the walls, which are filled with the soil and clay. Then the wall is covered with an impermeable membrane material and buried under the ground. See, these are some of the options followed to dispose of low level and intermediate level waste. That is to dispose of the waste with low level of radioactivity that typically comes from a nuclear power plant. However, coming to the disposal of high level waste, say disposing high level waste, that is the waste with a high level of radioactivity, has few options. The most feasible option is deep geological disposal. Currently this process is followed by Finland. The deep geological disposal process involves 3 layers of production. Firstly, the nuclear waste is placed in a copper canisters. Secondly, the copper canister were wrapped in bentonite clay, and finally they are buried more than 400 meters below ancient bedrock. Say the deep geological disposal process will help to keep the waste isolated from surroundings. Apart from this disposal process will also be able to withstand the disasters like earthquakes or tsunamis. So these are all some of the methods followed to manage or dispose of the nuclear waste. So these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. This article discusses a recent report called State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World, in short called SOFI 2023. SOFI 2023. The report is published by Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO) and other United Nations agencies. The report focuses on the affordability of a healthy diet in India and compares it with other countries. So in our discussion, we shall see the important findings of the report as mentioned in the news article. Before that, the syllabus relevant to the news article is highlighted here. You can go through it. Firstly, let us start with the basic information mentioned in the report. See, the SOFI report talks about 2 important dimensions regarding food security in India. One is cost of healthy diet and another one is affordability of health diets. First, let us see what does the report says about the cost of healthy diet. See, to determine the cost of healthy diet, the report takes the cheapest local food items that meet dietary guidelines. Then they compare the cost of these food items with average income of the country. If the cost of the diet is more than 52% of the average income, then it is considered expensive. The key findings of the report indicate that the cost of a healthy diet in India has increased in recent years, but it still remains low due to compared to BRICS nations. India's a neighbor. Now let us see about the affordability of healthy diet. See, even though the food prices are lower in India, 74% of the population cannot afford a healthy diet. This is because of the low income of the population. So the share of people who can afford a healthy diet in India is low compared to other countries. The report mentions that India ranks at bottom of this list. This is because income levels in India is stagnant or declining. The report also highlights a specific case study from Mumbai. It says that Cost of meals increased by 65% over 5 years in Mumbai, but at the same time, the wages increased by only 28 to 37%. It means the food price increased much higher than the wages. Now we shall understand the findings of the report with the help of 4 charts as mentioned in the news article. Now look at the first chart. This chart compares the cost of a healthy diet for one person per day in 2021. This cost is measured in PPP dollars, which stands for purchasing power parity dollars. See, where here 1 PPP dollar in United States is equivalent to 1 PPP dollar in India or Brazil. Even though the actual currency value might be different, so according to this concept, 1 PPP dollars has the same value in different countries. For example, in India, the cost of a healthy diet is 3.066 PPP dollars per person per day. This is actually lowest among the countries studied. You can see that in chart given here. Now look at this chart. This chart tells us how many people in each country couldn't buy a healthy diet in 2021. According to chart, 74% of the people in India could not afford a healthy diet. This is the 4th highest share among the countries studied by the report. Many people in India still cannot afford a healthy diet despite a low cost of diet. This is due to lower income levels among the population. Now the third chart explains that the cost of a healthy diet in Asia increased by almost 9% between 2019 and 2020-21. This was due to a number of factors like COVID-19 pandemic, which disrupted supply chains and increased food prices. Additionally, the economics slowdown in Asia has led to a low incomes for many people, making it more difficult for them to afford a healthy food. Now look at this fourth chart. Number of people who could not afford a healthy diet increased in Asia and Africa between 2019 and 2021. Asia accounted for 72% of the worldwide increase, followed by Africa, which accounted for 20% increase in people who could not afford the healthy diet. In Asia, South Asia region is most affected, and in the African continents, eastern and western part are most affected. So these are all some of the important findings of the report given in this article. Overall, this article highlights the lack of access to healthy diet in India and other regions of the world due to low income levels. So these learned points, now let us move on into the next news articles. Take a look at this news article. According to the article yesterday, Irla tribe people residing in Pulnisain village of Krishnagiri district in Tamil Nadu did not allow a dead body of a village person to enter into their village. It is said that the person died of cardiac complications at Chipmar in Puducherry at last Tuesday. So this body was brought by ambulance to village, but the ambulance was stopped at the entrance of the village itself. This is because according to the Irlas, the body of the deceased cannot be brought to the Irla settlement. They consider that bringing the dead from a hospital for burial in the Irla village is ominous. Here, ominous means that something unpleasant is likely to happen. The Irlas believe that the bringing the dead body from outside to Irla village will cause unpleasant things to their community. So they did not allow the dead body of a person from outside into their village. Here, even though the Irlas of a Palsoni village did not allow the dead body into their village, they themselves took the dead body to the common graveyard on the outskirts of Krishnagiri town. After that, they contacted the revenue officials to help them in cremating the body. The officials arrived and they held talks with the Irla people to allow the body to their village, but they denied the request, and finally the body was cremated, that is, the body was burnt into ashes. Here, one thing you have to notice, the practice of cremation itself is alien to Irlas. See, mostly the tribals around the world don't cremate their dead body. This is because they live in hills and forests. So burning the dead body will sometimes end up in forest fires, and therefore they bury the dead body instead of cremation. Irla tribes also have a belief that burying the dead body will give birth to new, serving the seeds. So This is the background of the news article. Given here, based on this news article, let us revise some of the points about Irlas in the prelims perspective. See, Irlas is one of the India's oldest indigenous tribal community. They reside in northern district of Tamil Nadu and in some parts of Kerala, Karnataka, and they speak Irla language, which is closely related to Dravidian languages of Kannada and Tamil. The traditional dance of Irlas is Irla dance. The Irlas are classified as particularly vulnerable tribal groups, in short called PVTG. Here, PVTG refers to the marginalized section of the scheduled tribe in India. These tribes are relatively associated from other communities. They are both educationally and socio-economically backward people. Now talking about the occupation, see, the main occupation of Irla is snake and rat catching. They also collect some of the wild resources like honey, firewood and so on. Apart from this, they also work as a laborers in the village fields during the sowing and harvesting season or in the rice mills. The women in the Irla communities are very knowledgeable with regard to medicinal plant varieties. They can treat some of the diseases with the help of medicinal plants. This knowledge has been passed on from many generations. Talking about their food habits, Irlas mostly consume millets. This is because millet based food is very much ideal for their rigorous lifestyle. Apart from this, they also consume meat of chicken, goat, pig and fish. Not that Irlas don't consume beef. Now coming to their lifestyle, say historically the Irlas live in the caves. Subsequently, they begin to live in the huts made of bamboo, but due to scarcity of bamboo, they began to build huts with the help of soil and stones. So as of now, most of the Irlas are living in houses made up of stones and muds. So these are all some of the very important points that have to remember about Irlas. So these learned points, let us move on into the next news article discussion. Take a look at this news article. Yesterday, the Lok Sabha Speaker revoked the suspension of Congress. This decision was taken after the recommendation of the Privileges Committee headed by BJP MP in the Lok Sabha. The committee unanimously recommended the Speaker to revoke the suspension. So based on the committee's recommendation, the Speaker revoked the suspension of Mr. Chowdhury. This is about the news article. Given here, so in this news article discussion we shall understand about the Privileges Committee of the Parliament. See, basically the members of Parliament have some privileges. When they speak or take part in the proceedings of the Parliament, these privileges can be classified into two broad categories like collective privileges and individual privileges. Now, the main function of the Privileges Committee is to examine the questions whether these privileges offered to them are breached or not. If any members of the either houses of the Parliament found that there is a breach of privilege by a certain MP, then they can move a privilege motion against such MP. Then if the Speaker of either houses find that there is a substantial breach of privilege, they refer the question of breach to the Privileges Committee. After receiving the request, the committee decided on a breach of privilege. Based on the valid facts, after due study, the committee makes appropriate recommendation to the Speaker through a detailed report. Based on the report, the Speaker would pass the final order on the question of privileges. In some cases, the Speaker also directs the committee to lay down the report on the table of House. This is how the Privileges Committee actually functions. Talking about their composition in Lok Sabha, Privileges Committee consists of 15 members and they are nominated by the Speaker in the Rajya Sabha. The Privilege Committee consists of 10 members and they are nominated by Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Note that Chairman of Privilege Committee of Lok Sabha is nominated by the Speaker in the cases of Rajya Sabha. The Privilege Committee is headed by the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Except the composition, the functioning of the Privilege Committee in both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha remains the same. So that's all regarding this news article. In this news article, we saw about the Privilege Committee, how they function, their composition. So these points, let us move on into the next part of the news article discussion, which is a prelims practice question discussion. Now take a look at this first question. The question is about Privilege Committee of the Parliament. 3 statements are given. You have to find how many statements given here are correct statement. One, the Privilege Committee of Lok Sabha is headed by the opposition leader in the Lok Sabha. This statement is actually incorrect. The chairman to privileges committee of the Lok Sabha is nominated by the speaker. Now look at the second statement. The recommendation of the privilege committee are binding on the parliament. This statement is also incorrect. There are documentations or binding on the parliament. Now look at this third statement. The members to the privileges committee are nominated by the prime minister. This statement is also incorrect. The members to the privileges committee are nominated by the speaker in case of Lok Sabha and chairman in the case of Rajya Sabha. So the correct answer of the question is option D. None of the options are correct. Here now moving on, here a description regarding the particular tribal group has given you. Have to find which tribal group this description will be suitable. Poor options are given. 4 options are given. Option A Toda, option B Kurumbas, option. So here the correct answer for the question is option C Irlas. Because from their community only recently 2 persons were conferred with Padma Shri for their expertise in snake catching. Okay, so the correct answer is option C Irlas. Moving on to the term deep geological disposal is associated with which of the following? Option A correct, carbon sequestration. Option B disposal of spent nuclear fuel. Option C burial of deceased animals. Option D disposal of burnt coal ashes. See, the correct answer for the question is option B disposal of spent nuclear fuel. We saw that in the discussion, right? So correct answer here is option B. Displayed here are the mains practice questions for you today. Just to go through the questions, try to answer it in the comment section. With this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit to do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to UPSC IAS YouTube channel. Now thank you for listening. Have a nice day.